Hello everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. In this session, we'll explore how to secure access to resources and roles for both your workforce and your vendor, contractor, and supplier accounts, commonly referred to as B2B guest users within your Entra ID environment using face check with Microsoft Entra Verified ID. I'm Jay Maharaj. I'm a product manager in this Microsoft Security Customer Experience Engineering team, focusing on Entra and our security products. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague Yusuke Kodama, who will be co-presenting today. Yusuke will be introducing himself and then presenting some part of today's session when we go through it. Before we dive into today's session, I have a couple of announcements. Feel free to ask questions via the Q&A feature. Yusuke, Luis, and I will be addressing your questions throughout the session. And we'll also discuss some of the more pressing questions at the end of the session as well. We'll be sharing a link to our survey soon. Your feedback is incredibly important to us and will help us shape the future Entra Verified ID sessions that we hold for you guys. We encourage you to take out a few minutes to complete the survey. It will literally take maybe 30 seconds for you to complete the survey. So please take out some time and do that for us. The aim for today's session is to equip you all with all the necessary information to get started with Microsoft Entra Verified ID in your organization. Especially for those of you who are new to Microsoft Entra Verified ID, we will start with a brief description of the service. We will then talk briefly about the Entra Suite before jumping into how you can secure access to resources and roles for both employees and guest users. Today's session is very demo heavy, and we are confident that by the end of the session, you'll have all the information that you need to be able to set this up properly within your own organizations as well. With that, let's get started with today's session. In today's digital landscape, ensuring trust in key interactions is more critical than ever. Let's look at 3 areas where enhanced trust is essential. The first one is onboarding shortcomings. In 2023, there were 90,000 cases of employment-related identity theft in the United States alone. This highlights the need for stronger identity verification during the onboarding processes. The second one is access challenges. By 2025, so this year, 75% of the global population's personal data will be under some kind of a privacy regulation. This means organizations must ensure secure access to personal data to comply with these regulations. And then lastly, help desk vulnerabilities. Impersonation scams led to 1.1 billion in losses in the United States in 2023. Strengthening help desk protocols can significantly reduce these vulnerabilities. By addressing these areas, we can build a more secure and trustworthy environment for all our stakeholders, whether it be our own workforce or for our partners, vendors, and suppliers, the guest users that actually have access to resources and roles within our organization. So how can Microsoft help you address these issues? By introducing Microsoft Entra Verified ID into your processes, you can significantly improve trust and efficiency. Microsoft Entra Verified ID is a managed verifiable credential service that enables organizations to create unique user-owned identity scenarios. These scenarios are designed for trustworthy, secure, and efficient interactions between people and organizations. With onboarding, you can ensure that the identity and skills of the individuals you are onboarding are verified. You can be confident in who you are bringing on board into your organization. This not only enhances trust, but also boosts efficiency as well. With verified ID, you can onboard workers securely in minutes. Remote onboarding becomes really easy. Rather than spending days and weeks on the onboarding process, this can happen in a matter of minutes and hours. Say goodbye to tedious manual tasks and waiting periods, and make onboarding a seamless process that can be completed quickly from any device. Yusuke and I covered the secure remote onboarding of both employees and guest users in a lot of detail in a session that we presented in August of last year. If you are not part of that particular session, please have a look at the recording that is available on the Microsoft Entra Azure ID YouTube playlist. When it comes to access to resources, prepare your organization to comply with the privacy regulations by granting access to sensitive data and resources only to trusted users who meet our specific criteria, rather than giving access to everybody left, right, and center. This ensures that only the right people have access to the right information. This will be our topic for today's discussion, and we will try our best to ensure that by the end of today's session, you are well equipped to go and implement some of these controls within your organizations as well. With help desk and account recovery, you can eliminate the risk of impersonation and reduce lengthy IT calls. Verified ID makes the help desk easily accessible for trusted users while blocking unauthorized access. This streamlines the support process and enhances the security at the same time as well. We covered this topic of how to secure your help desk from impersonation attacks in detail in a public session in June of last year. Please have a look at the recording of that particular session on the Microsoft Entra Azure ID YouTube playlist. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this technology, let me quickly cover what Verified ID is. A Verified ID is a verifiable credential, which is in the form of a card our user keeps in their digital wallet on their personal device that attests to identity attributes. Having a verified ID or a verifiable credential means that a trusted authority is confirming identity attributes about that particular user. With Entra Verified ID, you can quite easily issue verifiable credentials to your users. Organizations that are trusted authorities, such as employers, universities, governments, trusted partners, create verified IDs that confirm something about someone's identity, who they are, their nationality, their employment status, their age, their training and skills, any permissions that the user might have, or a combination of those attributes, and distribute them to users such as employees, in the case of universities, their students, in the case of governments, their citizens, and consumers of trusted partners as well. So it can be quite easy for you to actually set up the service and start issuing these credentials to your users. Entra Verified ID also allows those verifiable credentials to be used anywhere as well. Verified IDs are user-owned credentials, so they're not actually owned by a particular organization. They're stored on a digital wallet, could be Microsoft Authenticator app, or it could be a branded application from your own organization as well. We do provide SDKs for you guys to actually integrate this wallet capability into your own branded application. Users can see the identity attributes stored on the verified ID. Users can use single verified ID for many verifications, and you'll see some of that during the demos that we present today. And lastly, you can verify confidently as well. Organizations can ask users to share their verified ID to develop trust that the person that they are interacting with is who they think it is. So that's the key part. We want to be able to make sure that we are certain that the person who's requesting access is the rightful person who's supposed to be getting access to that particular resource or role. So far we have established that our verified ID is a digital ID in a digital wallet, such as a Microsoft Authenticator. But what if someone was able to get my device, so be able to get my mobile phone, and somehow know the PIN to access it, right? What happens in that particular scenario? How do we make it more secure for those kind of scenarios as well? This is where we'd like to introduce face check. Face check with Microsoft Entra Verified ID introduces privacy-respecting facial matching into your identity verification processes. is on the other side of a digital interaction when they present a verifiable credential. Face check is a premium add-on that you can implement on top of verified ID for an additional verification layer of liveness. Now, who is presenting a verified ID in that moment it is presented? All it takes is a quick selfie and then you are ready to go. Face check can be added to any verified ID scenario. You can stop impersonators from onboarding to your company, accessing your sensitive resources and applications, and from using your help desk as an entrance into your organization. So how does face check with Microsoft Entra Verified ID work? Users own their verified IDs, which contain information about their identity, such as their name, age, employment status, nationality, or any other identity attribute. The verified ID can store a picture or a photo, usually one that comes from a trusted document, such as a passport, a driver's license, or an employee credential. Face check compares an individual's live selfie with the photo that is stored on that verified ID. Face check is a privacy respecting feature. It does not pass or store any personal information after completing the face check. The live selfie is discarded and the verifying organization only receives a confidence score that shows how closely the live selfie and the stored verified ID photo resemble each other. So the only thing that we are passing to the calling application or the verifying organization is what we call the match confidence score. Right? We are not actually passing that live selfie that we take as part of the process. And verifiers can actually set a threshold regarding the confidence score and what will be acceptable to them in order to accept that verifiable credential and the face check before granting access to resources and roles. Let's talk about examples where you want face check in addition to verified ID. The first one is the help desk function. So say, for example, if somebody calls your help desk, verified ID might be good enough for most of the scenarios when a person calls the help desk. But if the person is calling the help desk to actually get their password reset or to be able to recover their account, at that point in time, you want to challenge them for a high assurance verification with face check. So that verifiable credential itself is no longer good enough. You want them to actually do a liveness check, present a face check before they will be able to then go ahead and ask for a password reset or do an account recovery. Similarly, like in the banking scenario, like if you are a bank, like, that is one of our customers, and if one of your customers is actually doing an unusually large transaction, you might want to challenge them for a high assurance verification with face check before they are able to transfer that money or spend that money or do something with that large sum of money. In the academia space, a university could want to make sure that the right student is actually taking an online exam, right? So in many cases, universities these days are actually doing online examinations quite a lot. How do you verify that the right student is taking that exam online? You can use face check in those kind of scenarios to do that high assurance verification. And then once the student has been able to successfully verify themselves, they then get to sit that exam and complete that exam. You can use face check in other scenarios as well, right? It's not limited to the 3 use case scenarios that I'm talking about today. You can use it for other scenarios too. With that, what we wanted to do is actually show you how to set up Entra Verified ID in your environment so that your users can be issued with verifiable credentials. And I would like to invite Yusuke to come on and actually take us through the process of how to set this up with quick setup and how you can quite easily issue a verifiable credential. So Yusuke, would you want to jump onto the call now and hopefully introduce yourself and then go from there?
Sure. Thanks, Jay. My name is Yusuke. Hi, everyone. I'm a product manager and identity division at Microsoft, same as Jay. Happy to be here. I hope you all see my video and my screen on your live. So here I want to talk about how you can set up Entra Verified ID instance on your tenant. So there are 2 ways to create it. Right? So quick setup and advanced setup. So we used to have only the advanced setup, which requires you to set up some additional Microsoft services, such as Azure Key Vault, Azure Storage with website option, and so on. And that was one of the reasons customers took so long setting up the verified ID service before providing it to their end users. Now with quick setup, you can establish the verified ID service with only one click, literally one click. All those pre-configuration tasks are done backend by Microsoft Entra platform. And once you have created the instance, you will immediately be able to issue the verified ID to the users, to the end users. Also, you can configure your verified ID properties like look and feel, attribute information, or other settings such as user scope or face check on and off. Those configurations exactly same as you set up with the advanced setup. So from now, let me show you exactly how easy it is to set up the verified ID instance. Let me switch it to my demo screen here. So first of all, you will need to satisfy one prerequisite, which will be registering custom domain names to your tenant. In my demo environment, I have Entra.Tokyo, beautiful custom domain name registered. This will be used for quick setup of the verified ID, and this the custom domain name will be used for the verified ID instance name by default. If you have multiple custom domain registered to your tenant, you will have a chance to select one of those while turning on quick setup. And that was it for the prerequisite. And let's go to the verified ID overview page over here, where you see the option to click the magic button over here. So let me do this right now. And then the screen says it will take 1 minute, but in my experience, it will only take 10 seconds or so. Here you go, setup complete. And then you will see everything over here set up. So this quick setup will set up all the infrastructure backend by Microsoft Entra. On top of that, it will set up, it will configure the first credential for you, which is a verified employee credential over here, verified credential. With this, end user can immediately issue verifiable employee card, digital employee card to their wallet with a default setting. Also, you can change the style, such as logo URL, text color, background color, same as an advanced setup. You can also add create additional credential by yourself by clicking create credential button over here. And also, you can configure attribute information, which will be stored to the verified credentials by the Graph API. And other settings are here on the issue credential menu over here, such as the scope of the user who can issue those verified credentials to their wallet. You can either say every user on your tenant can issue this verifiable credential, or you can specify user by selecting the group, security groups on the tenant. And here's another option to say issue credential through my account. If you turn on this check button, all the users in scope of the issue once rule over here will see get verified ID menu on their my account page. I will show it in shortly. So let me access to my account. You did create this to hit the save over the button over here. Maybe I need to refresh this page. Here you go. There's get my verified ID button over here. And then when I click this, I will see the QR code to get verified ID issued from the verified ID services. It may take some time to turn it on. I hope the demo works well. I think I need to sign out and sign in again, but yeah, you will see the verified ID QR code over here once I have successfully signed in. So that is it. Very quick, very simple setup of the verified ID instance, and your end user can immediately start issuing verified credentials to their wallet. So that was it, Jay. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Yusuke. Just give me a sec. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, I'm hoping you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So let me continue from there. Thanks a lot, Yusuke. Thanks a lot for showing us the the service and how it can be set up and how it can be utilized to issue your verified employee verifiable credential. Let's jump on to the next part. Just give me a sec. Okay, brilliant. So we did mention Entra Suite briefly before when we started this session. So what is it? The Microsoft Entra Suite is a comprehensive solution that combines network access, identity protection, governance, and identity verification to provide unified zero trust user access. So think about it as majority of our capabilities as part of Microsoft Entra being bundled together so that our customers can actually utilize the different capabilities for cross scenarios that overlap. Say, for example, identity governance and Entra Verified ID. The Entra Suite includes 5 deeply integrated products to give our customers a complete solution for zero trust user access. Firstly, we have Entra Private Access, which replaces legacy VPNs and extends multi-factor authentication and conditional access to all resources, whether it be in in your Entra environment or on premises. The second part of that is Entra Internet Access. Is our identity-centric secure web gateway to protect against threats of the open internet. Right? So this not only helps you secure your own premises, it also helps you secure access to the internet from your employees. After that, the third pillar is identity governance. So Entra Identity Governance, which ensures least privilege access for any user. And then after that, we have got Microsoft Entra Identity Protection. This is something that our customers are very used to, but that's part of the bundle now as well. This helps prevent identity compromise with real-time risk assessment for every sign-in and for every user, powered by our cloud-scale machine learning system. And then lastly, we have got Microsoft Entra Verified ID, which makes it possible to verify people's identities in real time in a privacy respecting way. So all of these are now in a bundle called the Entra Suite, and we'll be referring to the Entra Suite over and over again in today's session. And I think one of the key things to take away from today's session would be to understand the fact that our capabilities work together to help you address multiples of different identity related scenarios within your organization. So say, for example, identity governance by itself is a great product, but we can make it even better by using it with, say, for example, Entra Verified ID, right? So and that's the relevance that I wanted to mention today. Like in today's conversation, we'll look at how you can utilize Microsoft Entra Verified ID with Entra Identity Governance to make sure, your users can have secure self-service access to any resources within your organization, or how people from outside your organization can get access to your resources in a secure, in a privacy respecting, in a high assurance way. And then secondly, just-in-time access. So in many cases, customers have this requirement where they want their users to be able to get access to a role within the organization, which might be a privileged role, and be able to then limit it to a particular time frame, right? And still have the security of ensuring that identity is the right identity that needs access, and then doing high assurance verification as part of the process too. So between January and June 2024, Microsoft found 1.5 million credentials discoverable by attackers. Bad actors can use these credentials to impersonate employees, steal resources, damage organizations, or even plant malware. For example, in 2023, an attacker accessed T-Mobile through a single improperly secured API, resulting in a data breach affecting approximately 37 million customer accounts. This could have been avoided with proper identity verification. Regulation over data and access is growing, with 75% of the global population's personal data expected to be under some kind of a privacy regulation by the end of 2025. It's imperative to know who has access to your resources and trust them, especially with strict compliance requirements in regulated industries and especially with government vendors. Many companies still use manual approvals to grant employees access to resources. This practice is slow, it's very cumbersome, and it limits productivity as well. I think the million-dollar question is, how can you be certain that you are giving access to the right user rather than someone impersonating a trusted worker within your organization? So with that, I just wanted to quickly show you a demo of how you can use Entra Verified ID and identity governance to actually secure your resources. And what we'll do is we'll go through this recorded video and then we'll pull it apart and see how you can actually configure this within your own organization. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll pause this, so go over this and we'll do the demos live for you. So just in terms of securing your access, like to follow zero trust model, it's essential to grant both employees and contractors, like your B2B guest users, access to the right resources at the right time. This scenario leverages both Microsoft Entra Verified ID and Microsoft Entra Identity Governance, which are both part of our Entra Suite that we talked about earlier, right? This ensures that only the right employees and guests have access to sensitive resources, enabling them to access those resources quickly and easily in a self-serving manner. So they are empowered. Both your users, your employees and your guest users, are actually empowered to do self-service access management. This approach is not only beneficial for your own employees, as I mentioned before, but also for your contractors, your partners, your guest users, and other external workers that might be collaborating with your organization. For example, to gain access to certain sensitive resources or roles, an employee might be needed to present their verifiable credential, showing they have successfully completed a compliance training, right? This grants them access to sensitive customer information for the next year. Similarly, a contractor might need to present a verifiable credential from their own organization, proving their employment, and then perform face check before gaining access to the necessary resources to collaborate with your organization. The second part that we want to be able to tackle is to be able to reduce approval fatigue and automatically give access to people to resource, people access to resources, and then at the same time be able to revocate that access if we wanted to. Workers and guests can request access to resources through an access package with entitlement management, which is part of Entra Identity Governance, right? Access packages can be configured so that only those with specific verifiable credentials can access them. Examples of claims on these verified IDs could include certain training, right? So people have to complete a particular training before gaining access. Clearance certification, so they need to be able to be cleared to have access to certain resources. Employment status, they need to be an employee of a particular organization before they get access, right? And then face check ensures that the right person is accessing those resources. Access packages have automatic approval, so you don't have to worry about that that approval fatigue that comes with giving access to people to resources. You can eliminate the approval fatigue for managers and at the same time reduce the onboarding time for both employees and guests to access to those resources. And then lastly, improving compliance posture by enabling least privileged access. When an employee leaves their job or a guest completes their collaboration on a project, you can set up the system to automatically revoke their verified ID or their access to resources as well. Once the verified ID is revoked, the individual's access to the protected resource is automatically revoked as well. This improves your compliance by ensuring you know exactly who has access to what, and you can quickly revoke that access when it is no longer needed by those people. So let's have a look at this particular flow where an employee is actually required to complete a training before they will be able to get access to a particular resource within the organization, right? The employee needs to actually complete the compliance training, and once they have completed the compliance training, at that point in time, they can actually use the verifiable credential that is issued as part of the compliance training to then get access to resources which are associated with that particular role or that particular compliance which is required by that particular organization. So this flow actually shows it quite well. But let me jump into a demo to show you how access-based certification is important. So let me just quickly get things ready, and we'll show you how to actually use verifiable credentials for this purpose. So I'm logged in over here as an administrator of Fabricam, and on the left-hand side, you can actually see my mobile phone screen, right? So in Fabricam, what we wanted to do is make sure that anybody who goes into the role of occupational safety and health administration supervisor actually completes a particular training, right? We wanted the user to be able to complete the training before they can get resources or access to resources, which is only approved for supervisors for occupational health and safety. Now, what I have already done is I have actually got a user to complete that certification or the compliance training, and as part of the compliance training, they have been issued a verifiable credential for occupational safety and health administration, right? So this is my demo user. I've called it Clark Kent, but you can basically use this for all your users or any users that I doing that particular certification, right? So I've done in this particular case, Clark Kent has completed the OSHA compliance training. He's got that particular verifiable credential, which, as you can see, is stored on the Microsoft Authenticator wallet app. Now, on the other side of things, we need to configure an access package with all the resources in it. So what I have done over here is I have actually gone into Microsoft Entra Identity Governance. I have gone ahead and created a catalog where I have created access packages and added resources to. So this is the catalog that I have created, the Fabricam Occupational Safety and Health Administration catalog. And within that catalog, I have got a bunch of resources and access packages. So if I go over here, you'll see the resources that are added to that particular catalog. So in this case, I have actually gone ahead and added the occupational health and occupational safety and health administration Teams channel, right? You can also add other resources over here as well. So I can go and add other groups and teams if I wanted to, applications, SharePoint sites, and roles as well. We'll talk about roles in a different demo in a little bit. But for now, we have got this particular team, which is part of that particular resource. And if I was to go to my Office portal and bring up that particular team, what you'll notice is that Teams channel currently does not have any members defined. So just bringing Teams over here. And this could be any resource, as I mentioned before. It does not need to be a Teams channel. It could be applications within your organization. It could be SharePoint sites as well. It could be groups within your Entra ID platform. So you can have a variety of different resources when it comes to access packages with Entra Identity Governance. We'll just give it a sec to quickly load up, and I'll go to the Teams channel. under the Teams channels that I have this channel for occupational safety administration. And if I go to manage team, right, you can see that currently there are no members. I'm registered as the owner, but there are currently no members to this particular Teams channel. So going back to the Entra portal, now I'm going to actually show you the access packages that are part of this. So there's this particular access package that I have already created. And with access packages, what you can do is you can actually have resources with roles in them. So in this particular case, I have actually added the Teams channel that we defined before, and I have added the role of member for anybody who gets access to this particular access package. And then secondly, there's policies. So policies define who can have access to what resources and for how long. You can have more than one policy defined within an access package. You also have that opportunity to define auto assignment policies as well. So I've already done a policy over here, but I'll edit the policy to take you through the process of what we have to consider when we do this particular policy. So in this policy, like, you have to define a name, obviously give a description and enable or disable notifications. But this is the key place. So over here, I can define who can request access to this particular access package. I've gone and said, I want only users in my organization because this is the occupational health and safety supervisors within my organization, right? And I have also said, I only want members or member users from my organization to be able to request access to this. And then for going further, I can say, I don't want any approval to go with this, right? I don't want somebody going and clicking a button to approve this. I want to enable this access. You can also allow people or managers to request access on behalf of their employees as well now. But this is the key one. Over here, what I'm saying is I'm actually saying I want the user that is requesting access to this package to actually present a verifiable credential of credential type OSHA certified. That means they need to be certified and have that credential before they get this access. And on top of that, I want them to do a face check as well, right? How did I do that? I actually went over here and I actually added the issuers that I want to trust for this particular purpose. So in this one, I trusted this particular environment and the verifiable credential that was issued from here. So in this case, right, the credentials that are added is a credential from this particular environment from Fabricam. And this is the credential that I have added. If I go next on this one, I can ask questions from the user, like, how did your compliance certification go? You can ask whatever questions you want. And I can define the life cycle. So I can say this access assignment will be there for a certain number of days. In this case, I have done it for 3 hours only. But in your case, you can quite easily say, I want it for 365 days before the user has to go and do the certification again and come back and then re-request access. So you can do those kind of things too. You can allow the user to specify a specific timeline as well. And on top of that, you can do user access reviews as part of the access package if you wanted to. And lastly, you can even employ custom extensions at different stages of the approval flow. So you could say, you know what, I want when the access is granted. So when the assignment is granted, I want somebody to be notified that like this particular user got access to this particular Teams channel as part of this particular process, right? So you can do those kind of things as well. So I'm gonna now close this and I'm gonna jump into a separate window where I'm logged in as Clark Kent. So just give me a sec. Okay. My bad. Let me just bring up a quick window and we'll log in as Clark and then we can continue. So Clark, because he's part of the same organization, he can go to myaccess.microsoft.com and see what access packages he's got access to. So he can come over here on the myaccess.microsoft.com and he'll see all the access packages that he can request access to. What we have done recently with Entra Identity Governance is we have actually also added suggestions as well. So you now get suggestions regarding any access packages that we deem would be good for you based on some criteria, such as what others in your team have access to. Let me just do the multi-factor authentication. So on the overview page, you can see your pending actions and whatnot. What we are interested in is access packages today, and you can see what access packages are available for a clerk to actually request, and what they have active and what has expired. So what we want to be able to request access to is this one over here, which is the OSHA supervisors access package. So let me go through the yards for this one. Clerk can check what resources are part of this particular access package, and then he can continue over here. Now, this is where it's asking me to present the verifiable credential that I received after completing the compliance training. So I can use my Authenticator wallet app to scan this QR code. I can select the correct OSHA VC that is there. So this is the one that was issued to Clark Kent. And then I can go ahead and do the face check, which is required as part of the process as well. It tells you some information regarding, what are the tips regarding how you can do the face check properly. It also tells you about some privacy and security settings as well. Once the face check is complete, it tells me that the image will be deleted, and I can share this with the calling application, in this case, the My Access page. And I can then go ahead and provide so it is telling me that the verifiable credential was successfully shared and verified. I can provide some business justification if I wanted to, or I can just click on submit request. And then what happens is the system goes and provides that access to me. So as you saw, what we have done is we have actually gone and removed the whole approval fatigue for managers, but at the same time, we have included high assurance verification so that people can be verified successfully before they get access to resources within the organization. So now that I have submitted the request, I can go to request history, and I can see that this particular access package that I requested has been delivered. I can go over here and actually see that this has successfully been delivered. So what I can do is now I'll minimize this particular window, go back to my Teams channel, do a quick refresh, and Clark should now have access to the supervisor's Microsoft Teams channel for occupational safety and health administration within my organization. So let's have a look at that. And you can see that this has been successfully done, right? So this is basically making sure that your employees can get access or secure access to resources within your organization through the use of verifiable credentials, Entra Identity Governance, and the My Access portal that is available to you out of the box for your users to use. Let's jump into the next part of the presentation. So we have completed that demo. The next one is admin roles. So how do we make sure that users don't actually hoard admin access within an organization, right? We obviously have PIM, which allows you to elevate your role, elevate your access, and do administrative tasks across Entra and our Azure environment as well. You can now do PIM for groups. But what we wanted to do is come up with a method where people can actually go and request access to a role, instead of some administrator giving them access based on whatever, right? People can request access to a role. It can go through an approval workflow if I wanted to, and the user then has to do some kind of a high assurance verification before they get access to the role. This might be very good, especially for people who need this access every now and then. So not somebody that uses it on a daily basis, your help desk administrator or your global administrator. It's useful for that as well, but specifically for people who need periodic access to a particular role to be able to do certain things. An auditor, needing global reader role to be able to audit your environment, things like that. This is where it comes really handy. So let's go into our demo for that one. I'll escape out of this again, and we'll quickly bring up the portal to show you the experience, right? So in this case, what I have done, I've done something similar to whatever I did before with entitlement management and access packages. I've showed you how to create catalogs. I've showed you how to go about creating access packages. In this case, what I have done is I've actually created this particular access package. So Entra ID roles, this is the authentication policy administrator role that is being dished out as part of this particular access package. And if I go to roles, what you'll notice is basically I'm saying anybody who's successfully getting access to this particular access package gets active member access to the authentication policy administrator role. And what you can do is you can relate it to training as well. So say, for example, in this case, Fabricam realized that a user needs to be fluent with verifiable credentials before they can get authentication policy administrator role, which then allows them to manage certain services as part of that particular organization. So what I have done is, in this case, I've got Clark Kent to go and complete the verifiable credential expert training within Fabricam, right? And he's already got a verifiable credential for that. And in this particular access package, in the policy, what I have defined is I've basically said, I want the user to present a verifiable credential from this particular issuer with this particular verifiable credential type. So verified credential expert V2. Same process that I showed you earlier to actually add that in this, and then I've basically configured that policy in a very similar way to the policy that we did before. Now let me jump back to Clark's access. And what we'll do is we'll go to the access packages. And this time around, I would like Clark to actually request access to this particular role, right? So let's do that. Same thing as before, it actually shows you what resources the user will get access to. So authentication policy administrator resource, and we can go ahead and do the request. So let me. I'm going to choose the second one, which we know is the one for Clark, and anyway, we have just completed face check, and we'll share that credential with the service. So this actually shows you how you can secure roles. Now, just be mindful that roles are not limited to the roles that we see in Entra ID alone. You can use this for Azure roles as well, and you can define your own custom roles and expose it to through here as well. So this actually allows you to make sure that there is an auditable process to show your auditors that Clark actually went through the whole request and approval process, and then he was given access to this particular role. So if I go to request history now, I can see that Clark has submitted that request access, and it's currently in the process of being delivered, right? So once that is delivered, Clark will become an active member of the role that we just saw. It is taking its time, so I'm going to keep on going with the next part of the presentation, and we can always circle back to the role and show you that the role was successfully assigned. The next bit that I wanted to talk about, and this is critical for a lot of organizations that we speak to, is guest access, right? So B2B guest user access is something that is an issue for a lot of organizations. It's a security concern because it's very hard to verify who's getting access to your resources. And then the second part, which usually becomes a pain for administrators, is the process is very cumbersome. So you have to actually send an invitation. The user from some other organization has to redeem that invitation. Once they have redeemed that invitation, at that point in time, the administrator can then give them access to certain resources or roles within their organization, right? we wanted to make it simpler. So what we have done is, as part of the whole identity governance access management process through access packages, if a user does not have an account in your organization, a B2B account in your organization, as part of the process, the account is automatically created in your organization. Right? So it is automatically created. And through the settings that we provide with Entra Identity Governance, you can set it up in such a way where the account is disabled and then deleted after a set period of time. So what we'll do is we'll show you how to do this and then combine verifiable credentials to make sure that it is a high assurance verification before the user gets access to your to resources within your organization. So let's have a look at that in real time. So just bringing this back up. And what I have done with entitlement management, and I'll quickly show you this, a couple of things that I wanted to quickly call out, right? First of all, the settings that I was talking about for deprovisioning our B2B guest user. You can find that settings under like the settings blade on entitlement management. I can go over here and I can actually say when the user loses their last access assignment, I want the user to be disabled if I wanted to, and I want the user to be removed from my tenant after a set period of time, right? So I can quite easily define this. The second thing that I wanted to show you is the connected organizations. If I'm collaborating with a partner or a vendor on a regular basis, I want to connect to that organization so that it becomes much more easier for me to then provide access to services. So in this case, I have gone ahead and connected to Litware, an organization that Fabricam works with quite easily. It's done fairly simply, fairly straightforward connection through the add connected organization that you see over here. And then what you can do is you can then go and define catalogs and access packages, similar to how we did before, right? In this case, the only difference is I am actually allowing external users access to this particular catalog, right? And from our access packages perspective, what I can show you quickly is let's have a look at this particular access package, right? When I go to the policy for this particular access package, what you'll notice is I have selected, if I go to request, I have selected for users not in my directory, that means people from my connected organization, and I can define specific connected organizations as well. So I can say, you know what, people coming from Litware, right? If a person is coming from Litware, I want them to be automatically getting access to these resources that are part of this particular project, right? And what I've done is over here, I have actually gone ahead and added the verified employee VC from Litware as a requirement for the person to be able to gain access to this resource. And on top of that, I'm asking them to do face check as well. So this is something that can be done quite easily within your organization as well. So let us do this. Like in the last couple of minutes, let me quickly show this how this will work. So let me close this over here. I'm going to go to the overview page. I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually bring up a user from Litware, right? So this is a user from Litware that I want to give access to. This user currently does not exist in my Fabricam environment. So if I was to go over here and go to users and Fabricam, right? If I was to quickly search for this user, he does not exist in Fabricam. So let me now go through this process and we'll show you how the process works with the request of access. So I'm just going to log in as Lionel at lab 1, which is my Litware environment. Similarly to before, Lionel can actually check to see what is part of project B, but I'm going to pass all of that and I'm just going to go and do the verification. So in this case, same process. It's asking me to use a verified employee VC. I'm going to just double check that it is Lionel's. Yes, it is. And I'm going to do the face check. Now that I have done the due diligence, I'm passing it back. and I can go continue. It's asking me for consent, so this is very similar to the consent that usually people give when they are redeeming an invitation for a B2B guest user, and I'm going to submit that request. So that request is now being submitted, and so like we saw before that Lionel did not have an account in my directory, in my Fabricam directory, right? What the process does now is, because he's met all the criteria, so he's gone through the face check, he's presented the verifiable credential, the system is going to create Lionel's B2B guest user account in my Fabricam directory and give Lionel access to all the resources that was part of that particular project team, right? So let us go back to my Fabricam environment, and we'll just give it a couple of refreshes. And we'll quickly check if the account has been done. Yep, so you can see the account has been now created in the directory. The account has been created as a guest user as well. So you can actually double check that over here, and then you can go and check what he's got access to as part of the so like, he's now got access to that group over here, project B group, and there was an application as part of the group, as part of the project as well, and he's got access to Salesforce too. Now, just quickly summing up, like this actually takes care of the whole lifecycle management of the B2B user. You can also do high assurance verification. Now, the one thing that I did not get time to actually show you today, which is critical, is the fact that you can also allow access to roles within your organization for your guest users coming from outside, so your suppliers or vendors, right? And you can actually not only ask them to present their verifiable credential from their organization, but you could also ask them to present a verifiable credential from a government issued or an ID verification partner as well. So like, you could say, I just don't trust your organization VC. I want you to present a government issued VC or a VC from a verifiable ID verification partner as well for this particular purpose. So that is possible too. Now, I know we are on time already. Just quickly sharing some resources with you guys. We'll share this as part of the we'll share the deck as part of the thank you email that comes out, and all the resources will be there as well. Before I sum up, Yusuke, like, is there any questions that you wanted me to address?
No, actually, we didn't get much question for this, and yeah, nothing left. So good.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Yusuke. So with that, guys, like, thanks a lot for joining. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Yusuke and I are truly grateful for your time and your attention. We hope you find the presentation insightful and are very excited for you guys to start your journey on this particular path where you are able to secure your resources and your roles within the organization as well. Please don't forget to fill the survey form to provide us your feedback. And then also, don't hesitate to reach out to your sales contacts if you want to do a proof of concept with Entra Verified ID or Entra Suite in general. They have means to actually connect with us. So if you are interested in a POC with Verified ID, with identity governance, reach out to your sales contacts, and they will be able to reach out to us, and we can actually help you set it up in your environment. Once again, thanks a lot for your participation. Thanks a lot for your enthusiasm, and we'll catch up with you guys in the next session. Thank you.